set to begin. Hey everyone, it's Emily from Jaina Solo Says. I'm your host, and today we're going to be talking about the Netflix new movie, Enola, which is about Enola Holmes, Sherlock and Mycroft's younger sister, told from her point of view and off on her own adventures. So today I just thought we'd talk really briefly about it. So it was a really great movie. For those who have not seen it, I will be spoiling a little bit of it, not everything, but if you haven't seen it, probably want to wait and bookmark this for later, just in case. I get really excited, and so I might let something slip you don't want to slip. And it is a Sherlock Holmes-esque type story, so the mystery is part of the fun of watching. So basically, this takes place in after Sherlock has started to make a name for himself, and Mycroft is, I think, working for the government. Enola is now 16, and her mother, who is, of course, played by Helen Bonham Carter, who's amazing, has basically brought her up like Sherlock. So she's been kind of brought up like a boy, with reading and fencing and fighting skills, and not as much like embroidery or cooking. Almost become like a scientist and all these other things. So it turns out that she is very similar to Sherlock. She has a lot of his gifts. She can deduct. She's very smart, which they all are, really. And she basically has narrated that her mother has gone missing on her 16th birthday, and she's going to go and try and find her. And part of the story is that first she's going to let her brothers take care of it. She's like, I'm going to go pick up Sherlock and Mycroft, and they're going to take care of it. But instead she finds out that they're not really going to do the same things that she would want them to do. Plus, Mycroft is going to ship her off to like a finishing school because he thought that she was getting taught to be like a lady of the days and the times, and instead she's been, grown up wild but happy. Sherlock is actually a very interesting character in this movie to me because he's actually not necessarily painted in the best light. In most lights, Sherlock is always like, he's amazing. He's, a little arrogant, but he's amazing and he's smart. In this one, it's almost like he has retreated in on he's still a great guy. You tell he's like a decent human being, and he's still very smart, but he's kind of hidden himself in the fact that he looks at, his cases. He doesn't get involved in politics. He doesn't really know anything about Enola. They haven't seen her since she was like a baby. And so she's actually a bit resentful, although she, keeps all of his clippings from all of his cases. She just wishes he had spent more time with her, and he's never even visited. So it's actually a very interesting kind of dynamic to see, because they're very similar characters, but because she's a girl, obviously, and especially in those times, they're not considered to be able to do anything of worth. This also takes place during the time of when the House of Lords is voting on reformations. So women wanting to vote and just things changing in general is kind of on the horizon. And Enola's mom has gone missing, and as the story continues, you think it might have something to do with that vote. She goes off on her own because she's like, well, they're going to try and send me to finishing school. I don't want that, and I want to find mom. So she basically gets away, and Sherlock's kind of like hee hee hee, but Mycroft's the one in charge, so he's the one that she kind of leaves. And she ends up trying to track down her mother. Now, along the way, she comes across a young lord who's about her age, who is supposed to be going to vote in the House of Lords, but he is on the run for a few reasons that we kind of find out throughout the story, but he's trying to kind of hide. And one thing I really liked about the story actually was his character, because he is not just like, cute Lord Enola, don't you want to fall in love with me? Understandable. But he's actually also knowledgeable about like plants and fungi, and so he's got some depth to him, and it's not just like, here's a pretty boy for smart Enola to fall in love with. It's like, here's a guy who actually has some depth, and you wouldn't necessarily think it at first, but that's almost like one of her weaknesses that she discovers, like, oh, she assumed just like people assume about her, and maybe she wasn't all right about that. So she ends up saving his life, kind of not on purpose, but it throws them together to kind of go to London together while she's looking for her mom, and he's, off on his own thing. The story was really fun. It wasn't super, like, I didn't know everything that was going to happen when it happened. There were some nice twists and turns in there. She was a great actress. I'm totally blanking on her name now, but she did wonderful. Of course, Sherlock is our guy from everything. Well, Superman and The Witcher, and, we love him. So he's obviously great. And so I really recommend this. I think it was a great movie. Very fun. Like I said, not too unexpected, not too expected. And there's a very wonderful black woman character who plays like a judo coach who's friends with her mom and apparently taught Enola when she was young. And she's got some great lines that even resonate today with, you know, women's fight for freedom and the vote and other things that she kind of confronts Sherlock about, which I thought was cool. So definitely worth seeing. Very fun. Actually, it's good for the whole family. It's not like inappropriate, so it's a very family friendly film, but I think everyone can take something away from it and enjoy it. So I highly recommend it. I didn't see anything that was too like negative or needed much work about it. So go see it.